Hi again, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Horse Race Bets. I'm Ken Rudolph. What we do here, we talk about news, notes, rumors, gossip, and all the things that are developing in the great sport of horse racing. Filter it through my 25 years of experience and my perspective, keeping it real and giving you the honest assessment of what these things mean in the big picture. All right. And so we get started here today. There's a lot going on. In fact, let me get to the top of the list here because news came out about the big Pegasus World Cup card on Saturday. And handle reports have always confused me because in my job, it's to promote and market the sport. So it's always just positive, right? And if it's down, you just kind of don't mention it, right? You talk about it and you move on through. Well, Pegasus World Cup, the entire card, the handle was down $5 million from the previous year. Still 13 races, still a pretty good day of weather. You know, they had some rain earlier in the week, but that really didn't affect the track at all. So you look at these numbers and you're like, okay, well, what does this mean? Like, what does it mean when that's down? That's bad. That's $5 million less they have to work with, right? To spend on infrastructure, running the races, right? Taking care of the horsemen, putting that money back into the sport. That's now $5 million less that they had a year ago. But even though that's not necessarily a positive for racing, it was a positive for the players. So the average payout for every winner in 13 races, the average payout, $16 in 2025. That's fantastic value for bettors. That means that every single time you placed a win wager, you had a really good shot of beating the favorite. Only a couple of favorites came through in the entire day. Now, take that and compare it to what happened the year before, right? 2024, they did a pretty good, but the bettors, $4 less per winner, $12 average payout on your winners on that particular day of racing. So it's just part of something that the bettors are still able to make some money, although there are some things that are whittling away at that. Overall, the industry is having some issues. In fact, total handle, this is really incredible. Total handle in the United States, back in what they call the heyday, right? The best year that they ever had in horse racing was 2003. More than 15 billion. You hear that? Say a billion with a B. 15 billion was wagered all throughout. Back in 2024, just last year, barely $11 billion wagered. So that just means that there are some issues with horse racing in terms of sustainability, right? Because things are, you're having fewer races, you're getting fewer horses in those fields, and therefore your wagering has cut down considerably. And the main problem is the business of racing. Everybody knows that. You can see it coming. Yeah, the track real estate, or that land that the track is sitting on, is far more valuable than conducting racing on a daily basis. And it's really sad to see. You've seen really great tracks close down. We can go all the way back. I was there years ago when they shut down Bay Meadows in San Mateo, California. I was there for the very last day. Then they shut down Hollywood Park, which is now SoFi Stadium. They needed that land to build that football stadium and the shopping and the condos and everything around it. Arlington Park, you saw the same thing there. They had to shut that down. So they're also talking about maybe shutting down Gulfstream Park and finding a new location for racing there, because the ownership doesn't like that it's in an urban, dense area. So I'm like, you can't win, right? So the writing is on the wall. There are things that are happening that are going to be pretty difficult to deal with. But it is the reality of the situation, right? The business of racing, real estate, far more valuable than actually running races every single day. But in the meantime, and in between time, they're going to still run these races because the biggest race of the year is coming up in about 94 days. It is the Kentucky Derby. You got to get ready. You have to watch your horses, right? This month, the month of February coming up in just a few days, everything's going to kick into second gear, right? You have 10 Kentucky Derby prep races coming your way in the course of the next 20, 30 days, right? 25 days or so. And they're going to start this weekend on February 1st. We talked about this. The Grade 3 Withers coming up at Aqueduct. You have the Grade 3 Holy Bull at Gulfstream Park. And you have the Grade 3 Robert B. Lewis at Santa Anita. Forget about the last one, kind of, because Bob Baffert has the majority of the runners in there. And so it's basically just a chance for him to kind of whittle down his stable of contenders and find out who's pretending and who's actually contending. So we don't really worry about those big races coming up this week. But no matter what race you're watching, the question is, what are you looking for, right? How do you scout the horses? And there are all these people out there that have these different methods, and I have no problem with it. But if it works for you, then go for it. Do whatever you need to do to feel good about what you're trying to accomplish. But the most important thing is you have to look for basics. Everybody needs the same thing. So what do your Derby horses need? Number one thing, speed. Got to be fast. Got to get out of the gate and try to find your own position, right? So that's why I talk about Bob Baffert horses, because Bob Baffert horses are bred for that. They're trained for that, and he puts them in the mix for that. He wants to get out there on the front end, because the thing about horse racing is that once you get out there on the front end, not every single horse, not every one of the 20 horses in that field want to go with you, first off. Number two, not every horse in the field wants to fight through the traffic. So getting speed and getting position early on is a huge benefit, and it puts you pretty much a step ahead of everyone else. Now, the next thing you need is experience. You have to have been in some races, and of course there are going to be horses like Justify who come by every 100 years, who don't necessarily have a bunch of prep races, but they're just really, really gifted, really talented, really just electrifying, and so that horse can overcome not having the experience. But most horses, 95% of them, need to have experience. Whether you have speed or not, you need to show that you can get from the outside over to the inside. You need to show that if you can't get the lead, you can tuck in and then still make something happen in the stretch. It's really hard to come by with these horses, but the trainers, that's what this whole Kentucky Derby prep season is all about, right? It's all about putting your horses in position and then seeing how they respond to that. And then one of the things you're always looking for as a player, bloodlines or pedigree. Now, pedigrees continue to evolve, so you have to kind of stay on top of it. And there are all these databases around you can go and look up and track all of the pedigree. Some folks just feel more comfortable with certain pedigrees that they know, right? You can go all the way back through the bloodline. You can find like a super horse, like a Giant's Causeway. That horse can breed anything to do anything it wants. So you're looking for things like that. If you find that kind of pedigree, you just kind of want to sit and watch and see what the horse is able to do when they get into trouble or when they get into some stiff competition. The pedigree should help them out when the race gets really, really contentious. And then one of the things that you need to find, and this can often be found with the pedigree, but more so you have to watch the horse. And that horse needs to have a little something special, right? And you can call it electricity, acceleration. The horse has to have it. And probably the first time that I saw it face to face was watching Smarty Jones. He had the ability to sit, and then it was time to go, pew, he took off. The horse that I've seen that had probably the greatest turn of foot or acceleration or electricity is California Chrome. There was always this moment in the race when he was right. Like there were a couple of races when he wasn't quite himself, especially the last race in the Pegasus World Cup where he just wasn't himself. And even in the Belmont, when he had his foot stepped on, he still tried to do what he normally does, and that's when Victor Espinoza would ask him. It's like a push button. He would get out of there quickly. And it was an amazing acceleration turn of foot. And that was the difference between him and the other horses. When he did that, the other horses didn't have that gear. And he just had it, it's electrifying, really is. It's really electricity and acceleration all into one with one horse. So if you can find that combination, right? If you can find those factors, it's going to be pretty great. So with that, you're looking for certain things. And so I found some of those qualities in the horses that I've been watching on my Kentucky Derby list. And so take a look at what I'm looking at. We can quickly go through the list. You've got Barnes. And Barnes is a $3.2 million purchase. It's got some natural speed for Bob Baffert. We know the horse wants to go to the front end. We'll see if he can handle any pressure that would make him have to rate and be professional. Citizen Bull, we've seen him go to the front, and he does not come back. Proved it in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Too fast and too tough. He's really going to be tough to deal with on the front end. The other four horses that I have are horses that are closers, or they have something about them that's exciting. Chancer McPatrick has already shown that he can come from the back of the pack and win races. Hill Road is the horse that really did a great job of closing to be third in that Breeders' Cup Juvenile behind Citizen Bull. Built is a horse that's also been known to come from off the pace. And in fact, Built and Disco Time got into it in the LeCompte, that Grade 3 event that kind of officially kicked off this whole Kentucky Derby prep season in 2025. They ran that race at the fairgrounds. And Built had the chance to save ground pretty much all the way around. Disco Time literally went, I do believe, 10 or 12 wide coming into the turn. So had to travel a lot further, but ended up running right past Built in the stretch. So those horses are going to be intriguing. Now, the only problem with Chancellor McPatrick, Hill Road, Built, and Disco Time is they will need something to run at. They will need some horses to come out of somewhere. Maybe Speed King, who was able to win the Southwest at Oaklawn Park by getting the jump on the Bob Baffert favorite Gaming, who was stuck up against the rail and never had a chance to compete. Maybe Speed King is the horse that has legitimate speed. I don't think he does. I don't think that the horse can run with Citizen Bull, and I don't think he can run with Barnes if that's what they choose to do. Getaway Car is not on my list, but he's another speed horse that could be in the mix. And so we'll see what other horses come out of the woodworks to be front runners in the Kentucky Derby, because that's extremely important. Where the speed comes from is very, very important. So that's what you're looking for. With all your Derby prep races coming up, this is how you scout your horses. You'll have to do some studying. There's going to be a little bit of effort that's required if you want to take down the big score on that first Saturday in May, but you got to know what you're looking for, right? Speed, experience, pedigree, and then that factor, that electricity, right? An electrifying acceleration, a move that says, oh my goodness, this horse is not messing around. And when you find it, you stick with it and try to ride it all the way to the winner's circle. All right, so that's what we're doing. Coming up this weekend, going to be watching horses in prep races, and for the entire month of February, all eyes are on the track. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Horse Race Bets. I'm Ken Rudulph. In the meantime and in between time, and until next time, good luck and enjoy whatever you're into.